Hello, Archie Dunlop here with Talking Astrology with Archie on Tuesday, September the 26th, 2023. This is a standalone video in the sense that I'm not going to talk about any particular topic. I'm just going to talk about today's astrology and the I Ching. Reason being is because I want to discuss what's going on in Canada. So yeah, I wanted to do a separate video on Canada. I hadn't fully got all my sort of materials together because, something really does need to be said about Canada and the astrology of Canada in light of the fact that the Canadian Parliament applauded a veteran of the SS. That's extraordinary. I mean, I'm still completely shocked. A lot of people are shocked about that, I hope. And I want to look at the whole sort of astrology of the event and how that reflects on Canada and its relationship with the past and things that were going on in Europe sort of, I don't know, 80 years ago. The ugly head seems to be raising its head again, and that's really disturbing. And I do want to do a video about that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to talk about the astrology for today, which is September the 26th, 2023, and it is a Tuesday. So here is today's chart, as usual, set for New York at noon. You can see that the moon is still in Aquarius. So there's a moon at noon in New York is at 24 Aquarius. So really, the moon is void of course. That really means that the moon has it's made its last aspect before leaving the sign. Certainly, its last major aspect to a major planet, at least a traditional planet. So when you've got the moon void of course, you can't really expect a great deal to be happening. It's as if the moon is applying to nothing. So if you've got plans, then don't expect too much. You're not going to see results. Certainly not immediate results. And of course, I should say, moon in Aquarius. It's in an air sign. So there's still lots of talking and thinking, but don't take anything too seriously. Now, that's not to say that some people are going to be taking things seriously. The moon is making a square aspect to Uranus. So when you have, there's Uranus up here in Taurus. So, when you've got the moon making a square aspect to Uranus, you may find that some people are quite stubborn. They can be quite obnoxious. They've got a set of opinions that they're really tied to, and so if you get involved in an argument, there could be problems. Now, the moon doesn't just make a square aspect to Uranus. It's separating, certainly in New York. It's separating from an opposition to Venus. Now, when I just talked about the void of course moon, and I suppose I should kind of correct myself there. It kind of depends on where you are. So if I correct myself, I should say, the moon went void of course if you're in the Americas. Really, very early in the morning before most of you have got up. Now, in future videos, when I talk about the moon being void of course, I will give you precise times for particular parts of the world where the moon is void of course. But still, the moon is is opposition Venus. Whether it's applying or separating is not necessarily the point. So when you've got the moon opposition Venus, it can be a time of actual laziness. Two female planets, two negative planets, and by negative I mean receptive planets, opposition each other. It can just just be a bit lazy, just going with the flow, perhaps being a little indulgent. Moon opposition Venus, there's maybe a certain temptation to buy things you shouldn't be buying. So that's one thing that does need to be considered. Also, very widely, the moon is making a trine aspect to Mars. So, in terms of relationships, the fact that the moon is opposition Venus, trine Mars, does indicate that there is some action that could be taking place there. Whether or not it's a good thing, I'm not sure. In relationships, you may find that there's a certain dynamic tension. You and the other person don't quite get on with each other, at least short term. There might be a difference of opinion, and that could cause some kind of outburst. So that is one thing to be aware of. Now, another thing I should say is that I just said that the moon is in Aquarius. Well, it kind of depends where you are. Certainly, the moon is in Aquarius all day if you're in Europe, Asia, Australia, New Zealand. But if you're in the United States, the moon does go into Pisces at 8:18 p.m. if you're in New York, and it goes into Pisces at 5:18 p.m. if you're in Los Angeles. So if you're in the Americas, then this evening you are going to notice a change as the moon goes into Pisces. Of course, by definition, when the moon goes into Pisces, the moon will no longer be void of course. So this evening in the Americas, you won't quite have that void of course feeling. And you may feel, now's the time, maybe late in the day, to get something going. But you do have to be careful, because this evening the moon is not just moving into Pisces, it's moving towards a conjunction with Saturn. So this evening in the Americas, there could be a bit of a difficulty regarding sort of emotions. Our emotions might be stuck on something, and it may be difficult to work through. So that's something to think of. So yes, things may be going on this evening, but should you actually get involved, it might be best that you, if you're in the Americas, that you kind of avoid things of an emotional nature. And I should say that if you're feeling a bit low this evening, don't take it to heart. The moon moving towards this conjunction of Saturn, it's a fast-moving aspect, so it won't last for very long. So I now want to move to my forecast for the 12 signs. So here, let's have a look. So where are my forecasts for the 12 signs? Okay, so these are my forecasts for the 12 signs for today, which is Tuesday, September the 26th, 2023. Aries. It all depends who you hang out with. Some people are good for you. Others can be a bit of a disaster. But if you're honest with yourself, you know who to trust, and you've got a pretty good idea who is going to let you down. In general, people with a fixed view of the world who find change difficult should be avoided. Taurus. Some people can be very disruptive. They refuse to budge, and they seem to enjoy a good argument. But who are these people? Maybe you should look in the mirror, because many Taurians are troublemakers who'll do anything to advance their cause. But on the plus side, you could have a successful meeting with your kind of person. Gemini, ideas can move you in many directions. And just because an idea is fun doesn't mean that it's harmless. In fact, Geminis can persuade themselves that left is right and right is wrong. On the other hand, by showing the world that you're open-minded and free-thinking, you can attract new people into your life. Cancer. If you concentrate on surface appearances, you're unlikely to get very far because you just won't know what's going on. But if you prioritize your feelings, you'll get a complete picture. And through emotional awareness, you can initiate a procedure where relationships become stronger and clearer. But feelings need to be kept in check with rationality. Leo. We all know that you're wonderful, but you can't expect to be the centre of attention all the time. And right now, it might be a good idea to step back from the limelight and give other people a chance to shine. And when you do that, you become more approachable. Indeed, the more modest you are, the more appreciation you get. Virgo. It's a day for being methodical. Things have to be done in the right order, and errors and omissions should be avoided. But if you get it right, then there will be definite rewards, and I'm thinking particularly of the financial dimension. But when dealing with other people, be careful about being too critical, because today it's easy to cause offence. Libra. There are times when nothing seems to be going on and you're tempted to give up and go home. However, behind the scenes, things are happening, and when you least expect it, you'll get the breakthrough you've been looking for. Things you do mustn't be cheap copies. They must be a reflection of the fundamental you. Scorpio. Today, things must come from the heart, and fakery should be avoided. So don't say things you don't mean, and don't give compliments that aren't deserved. On the other hand, a genuine approach will be much appreciated, and if you give honest feedback, you're unlikely to cause much offence. Sagittarius. You can't please everyone, and the things you say could get very different reactions in different places. So when you open your mouth, consider who you're talking to. Remember also that everyone has a set of plans and deadlines, and if you don't play according to their rules, you might attract a negative reaction. Capricorn. Some people can be difficult. They hold on tightly to a set of values which may be irrelevant to the situation. And when they get challenged, they could dig their heels in. Such people may be unavoidable, and your job is to be diplomatic and to avoid provoking them. You can then shift your attention to other people who are more reasonable. Aquarius. Today it may be difficult to concentrate. While there are things you want to do, and you know what's required, external circumstances might be a major distraction. And distractions can come from many sources, for example, from family and partners. So perhaps you need to be one step removed from potential irritants. Pisces. Much of the activity is going on behind the scenes. You don't have to be noticed, and you don't have to announce yourself. You might think you're being ignored, and maybe you're right. But does it matter? The point is, you're getting things done. But if you're in the Americas, this evening might see meaningful but serious social activity. So, those are the 12 signs. And now I want to switch to the I Ching. So, as always, I threw 3 coins and I asked the question, what is Tuesday going to be like for people watching this video? So, the first hexagram I got was 23 splitting apart. It's not a great hexagram. As you can see, you look at the picture, you've got a beam at the top. And it's a weak beam. It's not very well supported. It's about a house that is perhaps teetering. So yes, splitting apart, and we perhaps have to accept that. There are things around us that are kind of sort of disintegrating, and it's just not going to work. Now, this could relate to something relatively trivial. So, for example, I don't know, we could be building a card house, splitting apart. We're trying really hard to build our card house, but you know how it is with card houses. The top beam is too weak and it all collapses. Or we could be baking a cake and the surface of the cake might cave in or something. I've never baked a cake before, so I don't know quite how that works. But that is one possibility, or just something we're doing, something we're really engaged in that just doesn't work. And there is this feeling of splitting apart. The very thing we're trying to fix just falls apart in our hands. Splitting apart, though, could also relate to the social dimension. It's perhaps, more likely to relate to the social dimension. Perhaps recognizing that there are people around us who we just don't really get on with them, and we have to say thank you and goodbye. So that is an aspect of splitting apart. The I Ching, when it talks about splitting apart, is really saying that the splitting apart is because of some kind of decay, that like the powers of evil are just eating their way through the system, and in the end the whole thing is just untenable. And the first line moves, and the first and the third line moves. So the first line moving is just about a situation where evil, the powers of evil, just cannot be stopped. I think the I Ching talks about them. This line about them eating the feet of the bed. So they're a very resting place. The foundations on which we're resting are being eaten away. Now, remember, this is a one-day reading, so let's not be over dramatic about it. But still, something we're involved in the first instance, it's just going nowhere. Don't it's almost saying, well, don't really try and fix it, because the powers of evil, the powers of disintegration are in their ascendancy. And then the third line moves, and the third line moving is not so bad. It's telling us to distinguish between people we can trust, the wise people, and sort of the rabble out there, the people who are doing us no good, are dragging us down, and we need to quit. So in terms of our social life, it does suggest we're involved with people who really are doing us no good. It's not a situation that's going to get any better. And remember, people don't change. I mean, people claim they change, but it doesn't. Very often, it doesn't really happen. You can have all the therapy you like, but fundamentally, in most cases, people don't change. So if someone's let you down once and twice, they'll let you down again. So these people, whoever they are, doing you no good, time to retreat. But that doesn't mean retreating in isolation. We have to choose our friends, and we should be focusing on quality rather than quantity. So choosing a couple of good friends, that's the right thing to do. Better to have a couple of good friends than have a couple of dozen terrible friends. That should be quality trumping quantity. But this hexagram, it does move, and it moves to hexagram 22, which is grace. A rather boring hexagram, but fairly innocuous. It's just saying, focus on surface appearances, whatever we're feeling, whatever the rage is going on in our heads. Just don't get involved. Just go through the form of things. The I Ching tells us it's not a time to be considering serious matters. We don't want to don't bring up heavy issues, in terms of what we're saying later in the day. Now is not the time to be bringing up serious matters or getting into serious criticism of people. No. We can that can happen later. We just got to go through the motions. I suppose, if appearances are important, yeah, maybe sort of look nice. Don't be like me. Yeah, look your best. Just be somewhere where everyone is going to just smile and have a happy day, and just try to put whatever you're really feeling to one side. So that's my reading for the I Ching. Sorry it's a bit downbeat, and I will talk to you again tomorrow.